go, Pistons.
You just said the opposite of what we said.
Nope, I said what I meant in my heart. Pistons spoil the win streak. 113-110. Actually, this was a heck of a game. Great ending. Jenkins, 30 points, 8 assists. Exactly how we predicted. Jalen Duren finished with 20. Luka had 32, so the over 30 did cash for Mr. Doncic. But we gave you 30 minutes of Lakers yesterday. We actually did. That was a long segment. And the Pistons made dang sure that we were not about to do that again today. 4 straight for the Pistons. Remember, no Cade Cunningham. 3 straight without him. So, the 1 seed, I think, personally, Chandler, we're safe. We're safe.
I think so too. Listen, what are they, 5 games up on Boston, 5.5 on New York? Listen, Cade Cunningham is their everything. He's their all-world player. But when you have a game like last night and you have a guy like Jenkins go off and absolutely, this wasn't a fluke. Like, this kid has game, put the ball in his hands, the game on the line, get to the baseline, and you know, have the guts to go and take that shot and to make it. He was fantastic all game long. Durant, so we wonder about where that playmaking is going to come from. What came from a combination? It came from Harris. It came from Jenkins. It came through Jalen Duren's not really a playmaking type scoring big, but you can kind of play through him and kind of feed him a little bit more and let him do the things that he was doing. Thompson can get out in transition. So we kind of got answers to all our questions last night of how this team is going to score. And now look, it's still going to look differently in the half court when the game slows down in the playoffs. But the way this team moved the ball last night, the way they still competed and defended, that's never going to change. So when you have guys like Jenkins going bananas like this and having a 30 ball, and Paul Reed contributes, and LeVert contributes, and Green, like, they're going to have a collective effort to make up for what Cade Cunningham brings to this team. But Jenkins was unreal last night. Yeah,
it got to the point, Lou, where I was so confident in him throughout that game that a shot would go up and I'd be like, yeah, we're good. Like, it felt like we're in good hands with Jenkins last night. You agree?
Yeah, Gotta show him a lot of love, and not only this game, he's had a few really good games. When he gets an opportunity to play, he maximizes those opportunities. He goes out there and he plays at a high level. Last night was no different. He went out and got a 30 ball. The game before that, he went out and had 22 and 17 in the game before that. You know, so this is somebody who's been able to fly under the radar for the Detroit Pistons, and when his number is called, he's been able to step in and give them big time production. So, you know, hats off to him. But Detroit as a whole, as a group, you know, it's hard to beat a team when they sharing the basketball and they playing together when their star player is out. You know, they had 30 recorded assists last night. That means they're sharing the basketball. They trust each other. They're playing well together. And that's what you need. When you have a Cade Cunningham out of the lineup, you need other guys to step up, step in those gaps, and create different opportunities that you would usually have Cade Cunningham to be afforded to get you those opportunities. Instead, those guys made sure they shared the basketball and they played together as a unit. You know, that's been a consistent for the Detroit Pistons this year. We've always talked about their toughness, how much they're willing to go out and bang and be a disruptive basketball team. We rarely talk about how much they share the basketball and get each other involved. So last night was a great game for them. You know, Jalen Duren, he was a consistent. He's somebody that plays really well when Cade Cunningham is out of the lineup. You know, now we got the emergence of Jenkins. Jenkins is now somebody who can go out and score the basketball when he's out of the lineup as well. Somebody else that we can pay attention to. You know, only averaging 8 and 3 on the season, but again, every time his number is called for him to play extended minutes, he's taking advantage of them. And last night was a big win and a big night for him as well.
You know what's crazy to me is we always talk about the MVP, who's the most valuable to their team, Lou, and they're 8 and 2 without Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
So like we've seen that a lot this year. When Wemby went out, the Spurs had success. When Jokic went out, the Nuggets still found ways to win games. So the fact that we talk about this Pistons team in almost a negative light, that they're not as talented, but it just shows you how the identity they have every single night. They defend no matter what shots are falling, no matter what shots they're taking. They still put themselves in a chance to win basketball games, even with their best offensive player out, and they find ways to win. At 8 and 2, guys step up. Jenkins averages 8 on the season. He averages double that, 16, 17 points a game without Cade Cunningham in the lineup. So I love to see guys take advantage of the opportunities they get when their normal guys aren't in. And the fact that they are 8 and 2 is very shocking to me, that they're having that much success without Cade in the lineup.
I appreciate it because it allows Cade, I would think, because what he's healing from is kind of a crazy injury that sounds scary. So it allows him maybe to take a breath and be like, all right, let me heal all the way. I don't have to rush back. These guys are holding it down. That being said, let's take a look at these standings. You got yours up. Whoever the 8th seed is, let's say Cade can't play the first round. How confident are we that they can get that done no matter what?
I mean, listen, it depends. Is Philly going to be fully healthy? Last night, they didn't play anybody, and when they don't play anybody, they have no chance of winning. Obviously, Charlotte's a hot team. Miami and Orlando, they can beat you too, but it's hard just to say they're going to lose the series, right? I was thinking Atlanta, if they kind of stayed in that play and they got the 8 seed, they could give Detroit fits in the first round, but the proof is in the pudding. This team is still a quality basketball team without Cade Cunningham. They still are one of the better defensive teams without Cade Cunningham. And they have multiple guys on this roster, on this bench, that can fill in and collectively still score the basketball. So it's worrisome to me that they don't have that absolute number 2 scoring guy, playmaking guy outside of Cade. But last night, they showed Jenkins is more than capable of doing that. Duncan Robinson and Herter are finding ways to score the basketball and get open. Thompson can play, make a little bit. And then they have, one of the better centers in the NBA, and Jalen Duren that can still wreak havoc down there. So I'm not taking them losing first round with or without Cade Cunningham, but I'm also, he's going to be back for the playoffs.
So you think, we got confidence over here, Lou.
But to your question, Beetle, to me it comes down to the matchups, right? Like you got a lot of different teams with different identities that's right there in that clump of teams that's going to have an opportunity to compete for that 8 spot, and to Chandler's point, playoff basketball, we're going to take some away. That's what makes playoff basketball different. We take away some of your strengths, and we make you play to your weaknesses and try to beat us there. We love where we're shining the light on Jenkins right now. But if a team denies him or put him in a position to be, part of that scouting report where they take away some of the things that make him successful, is he going to find ways to counter that? Is he going to find ways to still be productive on a level of a 20 to 25 point a night guy? Like, he's had 30, he's had some 22s, he's averaged double of his points when his minutes are extended. But can he do that in playoff basketball when his number is called on every day when the lights are shining the brightest? That's going to be a question. I think that's where you lean on your veteran leadership. That's where you lean on a Tobias Harris. That's where you lean on Duncan Robinson and Jalen Duren as the guys that gotta carry you all over the finish line, to get there if it gets a little tricky in one of these first round matchups. Now, I still think they have enough talent and they play well enough together, and the toughness is there for them to compete on a high level and get through a first round, Cade Cunningham or not. But it can get tricky depending on the matchups and if teams decide they want to take away one of these guys.
It does look a little. It looks scary. I'm not gonna lie without it.
Can I ask a random question? How much did you weigh when you played in the NBA?
That's
185.
Do you know Jenkins is 165?
Tell me what I'm supposed to know from this.
See, that's a little guy. That's light.
It's a little guy.
Watching him play, he's 6'4", 165.
He's 6'4"?
Yes, I just watched him.
Doesn't sound.
I'm just saying, I didn't.
Numbers, bro. There's no way he's 6'4", 165. Is that real?
Is that math?
I promise you, that's what he's listed.
First of all, why do we know that?
I got it open right here.
Because I looked it up and I was like, this guy plays like he's 6'7", 190.
165. It says 165.
I don't know this stuff. I'm going to go
pretty
ahead.
light.
What should you be at 6'4"?
I don't know, 180?
200 pounds.
185, yeah.
I have no concept. This is
I saw that before the show and I was like, this guy's got a small.
But he doesn't look like
plays a lot bigger.
That can't be accurate. But who knows? It says it. Yeah.
I don't know what to do with that information. Now I'm going to be paying more attention to it, I guess. By the way, I know we talked this a little bit last week, but as it gets more and more sort of realistic feeling, the fact that Cade may not qualify for an All-NBA team when we all know he should be first team. Are we closer? You guys have your ears to everything. Are we getting some talk from the league office? Like maybe we do an appeals committee or we figure some way to tweak this because this is going to be a big problem. Lou?
I like this conversation to get louder and louder, and I think, guys have been against it for a few years now that this has been in place, but we haven't had a legit case study, right? We haven't had a legitimate argument to fight back against the rule. Now we do. Cade Cunningham has competed as much as he could, did everything he could, and he has a legitimate injury. He's had legitimate reasons to sit out this year, and now it looks like not only is it going to cost him, some first-team All-NBA, an opportunity to have a chance at the MVP, and it's probably going to cost him some money. He probably got some incentives in his contract that's going to cost him a boatload of some cash. That's going to be something that we have to keep our eyes on. But this is the first time we have a legitimate case study to say, hey, let's get rid of this rule. We understand why you put it in place to begin with to try to curb some of the low management, and you want guys that are available to be out on the floor and be able to compete and be part of the product of what the NBA and NBA entertainment is. So we got to find ways to get these guys to be able to play and not sit out games when they're perfectly healthy. But this isn't the case. There shouldn't be a punishment for being injured when you've had the type of year that Cade Cunningham has had. So now that we have this case study, now that we have some evidence and some proof that this rule is some bull crap, it's time to take a look under the hood and start having a larger conversation to see if we can get this out of here.
Yeah, there's got to be exceptions to this rule because, like Lou just said, this rule was implemented